ఓకే. ఒకసారి స్ట్రీమ్ అవుతుంది లేదు చూడండి. నేను లింక్ పెడతాను. ఓకే. స్ట్రీమ్ అవుతుంది. ఎవరికైనా కావాలంటే ఈ లింక్ కూడా షేర్ చేద్దాం. చలో, లెట్స్ గెట్ స్టార్టెడ్. ఆల్రెడీ లేట్. You're able to hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, welcome to the GCP and DevOps training. So, today it's a demo session. So, we'll talk about the basic fundamentals of cloud computing. We'll talk about Google Cloud Platform, what are the services we'll cover, and then we'll also talk about how to set up your free billing account and everything. So, let's get started. So why? So basic introduction part. So what is the agenda? So we'll talk about cloud computing again, why it matters, what are the economics, why we should go for a cloud, when we should go for a cloud versus when you can use your own premises, and what are the services models like IaaS and PaaS and SaaS services. And we'll also talk about deployment models, which deployment model is right, and why we should choose Google Cloud versus Azure versus GCP. Okay, so we'll also talk about the core services of Google Cloud, and we'll talk about regions, zones, projects, resource hierarchy, and everything. And we'll also show you a Google Cloud console, and we'll talk about their billing model and the free tier. And then we'll at the end we'll take one demo on which we'll talk about how to set up a free billing account, free tier billing account, and that you'll use it for the rest of the class. Okay, any questions?
No.
Uh,
Okay.
I have
Okay, great. So what is GCP? What is the cloud computing? So basically, cloud computing is nothing but you have some, uh, let's say you want some, you're building some application. Okay, so let's say you're building an application, and that the application needs compute, storage, and internet and everything, right? So if you want to do this in on-premises, you have to buy a server, and then you have to host power, and you also have to buy a storage, RAM, server, everything, and then you have to secure it. You have to take care of the cooling. You have to take care of any power outages and everything, which is hectic for an individual, right? So instead, what you can do, you can go to any cloud provider, be it is Google Cloud, Azure, or AWS. You can go there and you can sign up, and you can have your own infra setup, and then you can start deploying your application, and that will be easy. Okay, so main advantage when it comes to cloud, you will get a free, like not free, but you will have a flexible in terms of the cost. Let's say you build this application now, let's say after a week or so, you said it's not going to work, or let's say you don't want it. So what you're going to do, you're going to just um, like you'll move to the next one. So let's say you are going to different application, or you are going to something else. So in that situation, it'll be easy. So you are not losing anything. You are just what you're doing. You are just a kind of um, what you'll say. You just pay for what you have used, and then you will move on to like you build the next one. Let's say if you are having your own cloud, like or your own having your own infrastructure, so that's when you have to start paying for it. So let's say you build for infrastructure, now you after a week you don't want it, so you have to scrap it, or you have to sell it again, which will incur a lot of losses. But if it is a cloud, so you can have it every given day. But there will, I'll give you another situation. So let's say you have bought an infrastructure where you are paying, let's say you are paying paid for $10,000 for that infrastructure, and that is owned by you. And let's say you are paying whatever the cooling and everything else, you are just choosing another $1,000 per month. But for the same infrastructure, if you want to buy it in the Google Cloud or any other cloud for that matter, you may end up paying more than that. But that's it. That is the decision that anybody has to make. Okay. So that's the basic idea about the Google Cloud or any cloud for that matter. Okay. Any questions?
No, no, thank you.
Just one second. So that's the okay. This is the problem. I think I have to stop. This is coming as a presenter's view. No, just one second. The stream. Okay, so this is better. So now let's talk about upfront cost. So this is what I've been talking about in the previous class, previous slide also. So upfront cost will be more in terms of on-premises, but in GCP or cloud it is low, and provisioning time it will take a lot of time because you have to buy, install, and everything. But if you are using a cloud, it will be easy. And then scaling, you have to provision again more infrastructure, like you have to buy the servers and everything. But if you're using a cloud, it will be easy, and you have to take care of patching any hardware issues or everything. You have to maintain that. But if it is in terms of cloud provider takes care of that, and you are building it in your own data center, so which will be confined to one region itself. Okay, whereas if you're using it for the cloud, so you can have like you can have infrastructure across the globe, and you don't need to worry about any of these upfront cost or provisioning time or scaling or whatever. So you can, since it's already in the cloud. So essential parts of the cloud, basically on demand. You need it whenever you have, and you have it anywhere and everywhere. And you have a shared infrastructure. Any size of the infrastructure that you want, you can have it in cloud, and you can like increase the scale. Like let's say you have today, you have 60 GB of RAM, and maybe like four vCPUs or CPUs, and then now you need to increase to 128 in on-premises. It will take a lot of time, but in cloud you can just change the size in within a matter of 2 to 5 minutes, and you just have it ready. Okay, and you'll just pay for what you exactly use. You don't need to pay for everything that is costing you upfront. Okay, any questions on this?
No, no, all good.
That's it. That is the decision that anybody has to. Okay, just a second, guys. I am just checking the live so that I know the slides are coming up correct. Okay, the slides are coming up correct now. Okay, let's go ahead. So we talk now. What is the cloud computing models? So basic models are IaaS, PaaS, SaaS. There are some other models they are coming up as a DaaS, which is a Citrix own desktop as a service, and so many other things they are coming up. But these are the main three models. So IaaS as infrastructure as a service, PaaS as a platform as a service, SaaS as a software as a service. So what does it mean? If you are using IaaS model, so you have your OS, you have your runtime applications, let's say IaaS is nothing but you're having your own VM, and then on or GKE cluster for that matter, and you can have your own OS runtime applications. You can install everything and all that. Okay. So what providers manage? So he'll manage the storage, networking. Okay, and the other services, servers. Okay, that's all. He'll take care of the hardware failures. He'll take care of networking failures, and he takes care of anything related to storage. So an example on GCP is compute engine. So PaaS is a platform as a service. So where you don't need to worry about the application like infrastructure layer. You will just deploy your application code, and then you can start deploying the infrastructure, and then once you start deployment is done, you can start using it. So what you take care of here is like your OS, your runtime, and then scaling. So example of PaaS in GCP is App Engine. You can also say uh, Cloud Run. There is also a thing called as Cloud Run. Which is also host containerized services. And the next one is SaaS. You don't just need to configure the data, and everything else is completely taken care by GCP. So or Google Cloud. Example is Workspace. Let's say you want Workspace is nothing but where you'll onboard your users, where you'll have your mails and everything is being configured. For that, you just need to do some configurations only, meaning like who can access, how to onboard the users, and all the basic policies and all that you can set up, and everything else is already taken care by cloud provider, which is Google Cloud itself. Now, so this is how you. So one thing is called in cloud, it's called as a shared responsibility. So who shares the responsibility when it comes to the applications in terms of IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Okay, this is how it goes like that. So you don't need to worry about this. This is like a shared responsibility model. You can just choose like which application, if you're using which model, like you are using compute engine, or if you're using app engine or cloud run, or if you're using Google Cloud Workspace. So how it goes. Okay, that's the basic information, and it is also compared with on-premises. Now, deployment models. So we talk about the deployment models already. We talked about the cloud provider models. Now the deployment models. So one is a public cloud, another one is a private cloud, and another one is hybrid cloud. Now the latest one is a multi-cloud. What does it mean? Public cloud is like any cloud provider you are using, be it is Azure, GCP, or AWS. That's the public cloud where you have a infrastructure or resources provision directly on the cloud itself. Okay, private cloud is nothing but you have your own infrastructure, and you takes care of the infrastructure and everything. It's nothing but your own data center, but you also use some other tools to make it work like a cloud. Now the hybrid cloud, so nothing but a mix of public cloud and private cloud. Okay, so where you will have your on-premises data center, and you'll only use it when you want to scale it. You connect it via the cloud interconnect or VPN. Okay, Uh, that's when it'll be hybrid cloud. Now the next one is multi-cloud. So couple of now it's all about multi-cloud. No organization is using one cloud now. So it's like you're using one cloud for one thing and you are using another cloud for another thing. So let's say you are using a Windows operating system and you need it for some uh, Windows workload. So you'll be using Azure. So now you are using a containerized services and you want to use it as a Kubernetes. So you will use a GKE. Okay. So what you will do, you will have a hybrid connectivity established between these two clouds so that it will be easy. You can share the data between Azure and GCP, and you can even if your application hosted on Azure, it can still access the services hosted in GCP. So that's how the multi-cloud works. Okay. Any questions?
Yeah. All good.
Okay. Now, when do you choose IaaS? When do you choose SaaS? Okay. So we already talked about like shared model. We talked about who owns what and all that, right? So When you will choose a IaaS, when you want to have a custom OS, you want to have existing on-premises data, existing on-premises applications. So you don't want to, modernize those applications, which means like you want to change some code or anything like that. If you migrate to like a PaaS service, so you need to update the code and everything for that. So you don't want to do that. Just you have a VM in the on-premises. You just want to deploy it into GCP. So that's when you can go for IaaS model. You can just do a lift and shift model, which is a migration type. Okay. And you have your own control on the security, networking, and everything. So example service in for IaaS is a compute engine. You can also consider Kubernetes engine as an IaaS. Okay. Now PaaS, when you don't want to you are not bothered about like control of the operating system or whatever, so you just want to care about what configuration goes in and all that. So that's when you will be using PaaS. So you want to shift features, you don't want to take care of any patching of the server, security of the server, or scaling of the server and whatnot. Okay, that's when you will be using PaaS. Now, when you go for the SaaS, software as a service, so you don't need to worry about your operating system, or you don't need to worry about anything apart from just doing a configuration. Okay, so that example is Workspace. So you can also consider Salesforce Cloud also as a SaaS. So it's like you do configuration and everything else follows automatically. Okay,
Okay.
questions? Okay,
No, no.
let's continue. So why we will move to the cloud, we already talked about it. So you have a low cost of ownership, and you can move it to market quickly because you don't need to worry about the infrastructure, and you can reach the globally. You don't need to worry about like what if I have a new customers coming up from US, whereas my infrastructure is hosted in the India. There will be latency and everything, right? So don't need to worry about it. So if you're using cloud, you can just ship the code and everything else will be automatically taken care. Okay. And what is the other one? Like you can, let's say you're using AI/ML services, or you need an extra layer of security. Everything comes up in the cloud itself. Okay, that's the basic advantage of the cloud computing, and why we need to go to why. What is the advantage of being in the cloud? So now, why we need to go? Why GCP? So GCP basically launched in 2008. When it started, it was not called as Google Cloud, but they have started as App Engine, which was used internally for them. Uh, okay, and then they have started having their own. Anyway, Google also have another advantage. They already have the largest backbone network across the world. Okay, Cloud, Google has a subsea fiber cables and everything, so they are just using that. Okay, so apart from that, they also have the Kubernetes was the one, like Google was the first company to have the Kubernetes created. They have now they changed that as a open source, then everybody else is adapted. And then they have also come up with the BigQuery, TensorFlow, all that. So all that was now part of Google Cloud. Okay, and Google already have a good reputation for the data analytics, machine learning, and container orchestration. So just to give you an understanding, if anybody asks you for the GCP, mostly they will be coming from Google Cloud for three different reasons. Either they are coming up into Google Cloud for the data analytics because it is a very nice um, ecosystem for data analytics, and also for the machine learning and Kubernetes. Because if you are getting into Google Cloud, it will be for one of these reasons. They are coming up in, maybe they are part of another cloud, but they will be coming into Google Cloud. Maybe for the data analytics, maybe for the machine learnings, or maybe for container orchestration. Container orchestration is nothing but your Google Cloud. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the comparison how Google Cloud looks like in terms of Google Cloud versus AWS plus Azure. So built in, first we started in the for internal infrastructure for Google Cloud, and then it has become the Google part of. Google Cloud's ecosystem, but in AWS is launched in 2006 with an e-commerce, and Azure launched as a 2010 and based on the Hyper-V and everything. So that's a different story. So Kubernetes, Google Cloud, Google created the Kubernetes, and you also have a Kubernetes equivalent in the AWS and Azure. In AWS, it's called as EKS and AKS. And the data analytics for data analytics in GCP, you have a BigQuery server, BigQuery. You also have the similar in AWS, which is called as a Redshift, and you have the similar one in Azure called as a Synapses Analytics. Okay, and the important one in GCP, the billing is per second billing. You will be pay for everything related. If you have deployed any resource, you will be pay for the billing in terms of seconds, not for minutes. Okay, but in the AWS also per second billing, and then largely you will be using RIs and saving plans. And in Azure, it is actually per minute billing, and you will be hybrid. You will have a hybrid focus discounts. What does that mean? You have an Azure existing Windows workloads. You are migrating into Azure. So in that way, you can use your licenses in Azure. So that's where you'll be saving some cost. So that's the hybrid discount part. So now, what is the best fit? So we'll talk about that. It's a data and AML containers, and data or ML are uh, container orchestration or data analytics. That's when that is the best way of best possibility of GCP. And then like in AWS, it's like you're using a broadcasting catalog or large enterprise ITs. That's the other thing. In Azure is like when you have an existing Microsoft stack. Okay, so that's when you will be choosing Azure. So this is basic idea, but that's not. It doesn't work really like that. There may be some changes here and there, but that's what largely, by and largely, it is how it looks like. Now, core services that you need to be aware of. It's a compute engine. Compute is like a where you'll host your application, right? Where do you do the processing? So the basic is the compute engine and Kubernetes in Google Kubernetes engine, and then Cloud Run. And you also have other services like Cloud Functions and uh, other things, but these are like a basic main three services in terms of computing in GCP. When it comes to storage, you have a persistent disk, which is nothing but a disk attached to the compute engine itself, and then the cloud storage, which is a GCS bucket. And now other one is in terms of networking, it is about the VPC, load balancing, cloud DNS. You also have come up with, you also have, will be covering the VPN and will not be covering the interconnect because interconnect goes at the enterprise level, but I'll show you how you can order an interconnect and everything. But in this session, in this course, we'll not be covering the interconnect, how to set up interconnect and all that, but we'll be setting up a VPN and everything. Okay. Now the data analytics we will not be covering this data analytics and ML here. But we'll be I'll talk about what exactly it is, what it is been used, basic understanding about data analytics and PubSub and all that. And AML, we have a Vertex AI, Vision AI, and neural language processing. All that is part of AIML. We will not be covering AIML here. We'll be talk about it like what is it and all that basic idea, but we'll not be using that we'll not be learning deeper in this class. Questions?
No.
Okay, good. Bonana,
Yeah. Okay.
mm, any questions?
No, still no.
Okay. So why Google Cloud? As I said, we have Google Cloud has the largest backbone network in the and in the entire, like if you try to compare this with anyone, so Google has the highest and largest backbone network, and it has edge points because of the already have the Google, like the Google search, Google Maps, YouTube, everything, right? Because of that, they have already created the largest backbone network, and for that matter, even the Google search. every Google service now being running, right? It is hosted in Google Cloud. Okay, if you're building anything or you're hosting anything, you are actually you are actually using the same infrastructure as these applications. Okay, and data is like encryption, and as another thing, Google Cloud by default, anything related to Google Cloud, your data, your network, the minute it leaves your network, right? Like let's say you're in a zone, you're in a region, and if the traffic is leaving the backbone network of Google Cloud, so it is encrypted by default. You don't need to do any other configuration. Okay, and the live migration, which is common across all the clouds, but it also have the um, you know uh, live migration. Like what is the live migration is like when you have a application hosted in a compute engine, and for some reason the compute engine hosted hardware ran into some problem. So it Google Cloud automatically takes care of the migrating that VM from the faulty hardware to healthy hardware. That's the live migration, and you don't need to do any and even the cloud, even the owner of the VM or the application hosted on the VM will not face any challenges. It'll be very smooth. You will not face any downtime. You don't need to reboot or anything. It just takes care of automatically. And the other one is the global load balancing. So in Google Cloud, the very good advantage is like you have a global load balancer. Let's say you have a external load balance. External. We'll talk about the different types of load balancers when we go further. But in this class, we'll just say like this one with one global load balancer, you can everybody across the globe can actually access the services that are hosted behind the load balancer, and there will be security and everything. We'll talk about it when you go further. But well, that's the one advantage. So this is again like when the GCP tends to win and all that. So why we should choose for it's big BigQuery and native AML support modeling and data pipelines are very is one good advantage in GCP. And if you see a lot of people who are using AI/MLs or data ML workloads, mostly they are in Google Cloud. They maybe are like let's say 60% I can say is on the data and ML or in Google Cloud. They'll be having at least some setup in GCP. Okay. And Kubernetes becomes same across all the environments, but since Google was the first one who created the Kubernetes, and um you have a well managed Kubernetes engine in Google Cloud, and it has some advantages in terms of the tooling and everything. It's very easy in Kubernetes compared to the other cloud providers, be it is AWS or Azure. And the cost, it has a like you have a per second billing, and you also have a sustained discount, usage discount. What is sustained discount is like you are using a VM for like let's say for 30 days. So because you use this VM continuously for 30 days, that's called sustainability. So because of that you will get some discount automatically. You don't need to apply, don't need to call anyone or ask anyone or anything. It just applies automatically. Okay. And the other one is about the live migration. You don't need to take care. We already talked about it. Mhm. So we already talked about per second billing, uh, and we already talked about the sustained discounts, committed usage discount. Let's say you have, let's say you have a long vision for your infrastructure. Let's say I want to use this infrastructure for the next 5 years or 3 years. Okay, so what you're going to do, you're going to have a contract with the Google Cloud saying that I'm going to use this much of the workloads, compute this much of compute, this much of storage, and this much of BigQuery. And I'll be using it, so I need discount. So that's where based on that they'll make you use a certain amount of um, discount. That's called as a committed usage discount. So, but the problem with a committed usage discount, if you are using a committed usage discount, right? So you have to use it, like you have to pay for it the minute you said You have a and get into the contract. Be whether you have used that much that much of capacity or not, but you still have to pay for it. Okay. The other one is the custom machine type. So if you deploy a VM in AWS or Azure, so you deploy based on the size. Let's say you are going for D4 SV3, so it comes up with a 4 vCPUs and 16 GB of RAM. But that is not the case in GCP. GCP also you get into similar sizes, but if you want to increase, you want to customize, right? You want to customize the vCPU and memories. So you let's say you can increase the number of vCPUs and you can decrease the memory because your application is mostly on the CPU utilization based, not the memory utilization. It's not memory intensive. So you can increase the CPUs, but you can still keep the less amount of memory. Okay, instead of having a fixed size, fixed machine size. Okay, questions?
No.
Okay, well done. Let's continue to the next one. So compute, we talked about it. Popular services. Compute is a compute engine, Kubernetes engine, cloud run, cloud functions, app engine. Storage, we talked about it. Like cloud storage, persistent disk, file share. So cloud storage is nothing but your DCS bucket. Persistence is nothing. Disk is nothing but the VM disk attached to your VM, and file share is like a NFS share. It's like Windows file share or like similar to that, but file store is basically NFS share. Now networking VP will talk about all this. Will be covering mostly apart from the data and AML. Okay, will VPC will in terms of VPC you have sorry networking you have VPC, cloud load balancing, cloud DNS, cloud CDN. We'll talk about all these services as we go further. We'll also try to cover uh, basics of data and analytics, BigQuery, data flow, PubSub, data proc, all that, and we'll see about the AML part. We mostly try to show you like what it looks like and everything in terms of AML. Now, in terms of the DevOps and IAC, you have a cloud build. Cloud build is in cloud build is its own pipeline where you do the like if you're using Git Actions pipeline, right? So that's where you do the build and everything. So similarly, you can use a cloud build. It's a native tool where you can use it to build the application, and then artifact registry is nothing but your that's where you store your artifacts. It's nothing but you have a container image which is created and you will be storing it in the artifact registry, and then cloud deploy, which is an old service but no longer available now. It's gone. They have deprecated it, and you can use Terraform to deploy your infrastructure. We'll be covering about Terraform also in this class. We'll cover about cloud build, artifact registry, and Terraform. We'll not talk about the cloud deploy because cloud deploy has been deprecated. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
If cloud deploy is not there, then if there is any alternative service for that?
Cloud deploy, they are coming up with another service. It's not in the public availability yet.
Okay.
It is in the internal preview. I think it's a private preview now. So only a couple of people who are interested they can register for it and they can use it. But for now, it's not for the. It's not a GA yet. It's not generally available. Okay. We'll see when we go to the specific DevOps topics. We'll see if we can get into the private preview and or private preview or public preview. I'm not sure what is the current status. We'll go for it and we'll see if we can use it and try to explore the things. Mostly, it's not very popular. Mostly, people are using now either Jenkins. Jenkins also too old. Mostly, it is GitHub Actions or GitLab pipelines. Okay. So another one about the infrastructure. So in GCP, you have a couple of things. One is called as a region. Another one is called as a projects. Okay, and the zones. So what is a region? Region is nothing but a combination of zones. In every region, you take any example of GCP regions. So region, you'll have a multiple regions, and in each region you again have a zone, zone A, zone B, zone C, like that. And there are couple of regions where you have a more than three, you have four zones as well. Those are the ones which are like, highly, there is a huge amount of traffic, and that's the reason why there is another zone. You don't need to, like, one important thing where you'll come up, you need to choose the zones. If you're deploying a compute engine, you may have to choose a zone. There will be, if you select a region, it automatically select a zone. But let's say you don't want to, you have an application which need to be deployed in more than one server. That's when you will be choosing the zones. So let's say you have, as part of the business continuity or DR things, right? So you will be deploying, like if your application is part of more than two, like you need more, application is part of more than two servers or more than one server. So you'll be deploying compute engine. You need to deploy that in the compute engine. So that's when you'll be choosing. You have deployed in the Asia South one, okay, and that you have to deploy two servers, right? So you will be deploying one in zone A and one in zone B, or you will deploy one in zone B and another one in zone C. That's why in case of any zonal outage, you still have one server that is left for serving the traffic. Okay. Any questions?
Now,
Okay.
regarding the zone, while
You need to speak a
creating
little
one,
bit louder, sir.
mm, yeah, I'm audible.
Yeah, yeah, you are audible, sir.
Okay. Now, if we we need to deploy it based on zones, right? Zone
Mm-hmm.
A, Zone B, and Zone
Mm-hmm.
C. Then we need to select it, or it is not automated.
No, you have the availability zones and all in Azure. That's not the case in GCP. In GCP, you have to
Mhm.
manually select them.
Okay.
Okay. So based on that, it will come up. Okay. So one another important thing in terms of the zones, in terms of networking, when you choose a VPC in GCP, VPC is a global resource. Okay, if you compare this with Azure or AWS, there it is a regional resource. Even though it is a regional resource for that matter, um, it is still covers the zones. Okay, coming back to GCP, your VPC is a global resource, meaning you deploy one VPC and um, you can deploy applications using the same VPC across every zone. Sorry, every region. Okay. Now the another thing is, like, in what is the regional in GCP is your subnets. The subnets are regional resources. Let's say you're deploying anything in the Asia Southeast one. So you need to have at least one subnet in that region. Okay. So then only you will be able to deploy a compute engine or any IaaS resources that needs a networking connectivity based on, basically. Okay. That's the one important thing you always need to remember. VPC is a global resource in GCP, okay, which means one VPC can be used across all the regions. Can, okay, not should, can. You can have a multiple VPCs created and the same and then you can use it for multiple applications. That's a secondary thing. But what I'm saying is, with one VPC, you can have applications running across. You can use this same VPC across all the regions, but you need to have a subnet. VPC contains the subnets. Subnets are the regional resources. You need to have at least one subnet in that specific region if you are trying to deploy applications in that region. Okay, you're trying to deploy a computer Kubernetes engine or anything like that. Okay, any question?
Yeah. So I have a question. So from one VPC, we can use multiple project and multiple region as well, right?
That's a shared VPC. We'll talk about it when we come to the shared VPC.
Okay, okay. Mhm.
That's a shared VPC. Shared VPC is different. We are talking about a standard VPC. Yes, it is
Okay.
possible. That's called shared VPC. We'll talk about
Mhm.
it when we go to the VPC in deep. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Now coming to IAM and project. So one important thing. Let me just go to the next step. Uh, where is it? Yeah. So this is how your GCP resources hierarchy looks like. You have your region, sorry, you have your organization. Okay, organization is the highest. So let's say I have my organization as cloud corner. Okay, so then I have my uh, different trainings, right? So I'll have a different folders created for different trainings, and then I'll have a different projects for different purposes. Like let's say I'm doing it for batch one, different batches will have a different project. So in the real time in your organizations or when you are deploying the infrastructure, how it'll go like is you have a top as an organization, and then you have your folders. Folders nothing but your either business units or application specific. Okay, or environment specific. Let's say you have a BU1, BU2, like you have a sales, you have you have a R&D, and then you have like marketing, all that, right? So these are the three BUs. Okay, so you can have a different folders, or let's say you have a workloads that are dev, QA, UAT, and prod. Okay, so you're gonna have a folders like dev, QA, UAT, and prod, and then in that you can have deploy multiple projects. Okay, folders are, it doesn't have any specific requirement. You don't need folders to create a project. Okay, for that matter, you don't need even an organization to create a project. Project is an individual. It's a separate. Okay, that's you don't need a folder or an organization to deploy any compute engine or Kubernetes engine or any other services in Google Cloud. But in the enterprise infrastructure, usually it will go from the organization and they'll create a folders just to organizing it. Folder doesn't have any functionality. For organization has certain functionalities, but folder doesn't have any functionality. It is just a placeholder, meaning you have a folder. In the folder you will have it is just to place your projects. Okay, just like if you're talking about your, if you open your desktop and you have a multiple files and you want to organize them, what you'll do, you'll copy all those files into one folder. You create a folder and you copy all of them and put it in, save it over there, right? So that's how you can compare that with a Google Cloud folders. Okay, now project is the important resource hierarchy. That this is where you'll have your IAM bindings and resources by billing, and if billing starts at the project level, it's not start at the folder level or an organization level. Okay, so you make there are some situations where you can have more than one billing account in an organization. Okay, or you can have a multiple. Let's say I in one of the banking organization that I've worked, so where I have around 1500 projects. So I have a multiple billing accounts. It's based on the BUs it has been allocated there. Okay, that's about the billing. So IAM, again, IAM works at the organization, IAM works at the folder, IAM works also at the project level, also at the resource. You can apply any level. We will talk about the IAM when we go to the IAM class. Any question on the resource hierarchy?
Can I have some details on folder?
Sorry.
No, little bit about the folder. I'm not getting it.
See, folder
As a
is nothing but a placeholder. It's just a folder is like in your laptop, you have a folder, right? Why you have a folder? Just to keep multiple files in the same folder, just to organize them. Similarly, you have a folder in GCP just to uh, organize your projects. Okay,
okay, got it.
yeah. So you can also apply IAM policies, some org policies at the folder level, but other than that, it doesn't have any specific functionality. It doesn't. It's not even a mandatory resource in GCP. Even organization is not mandatory, but you will use the organization as your so that you can just how do you say, comply in terms of compliance and organizing the things, right? So that's why you use a organization. Okay, now the resources nothing but your VMs or buckets or whatever the resources that you're deploying. You don't have any Like we don't have resource group which is there in the Azure. Okay, so if you are trying to compare the one with uh, resource group, you can compare that with a folder. But the only difference there and here, there you have a subscription. Under the subscription, you have a resource group. Here you have a folder under which you will have a projects. Okay, both are little different, but they serve the same similar purpose. Okay, question. Now this is what I want to talk about, the zones and regions. So region is nothing but a, like, very specific one. So Asia Southeast, we have two regions in India. One is Mumbai and one is Delhi. So they are two different regions. In each region, we can have a multiple zones: zone A, zone B, zone C. Okay, and so just to give a definition, it's one geographic is a region. In the geographic, you have a multiple data centers. Okay, so let's consider that it is zone is like a single data center in which you have its own power, you have its own cooling, and it has its own networking. So ideally, how it will be designed is like you have one zone, okay, one region. In that region, you have a one separate zone, which is like a one dedicated data center. Like there may be like uh, there will be a, like, uh, they are divided separately. They are in this in terms of disaster recovery planning. So they'll have it separately, and they'll have a separate cooling, separate power, and everything, and separate networking and everything. In case of any issues at the one zone, it the other zone still be running. So that's the reason why I told you in terms of you're deploying any applications. Okay, you have to deploy at least any application that is you're deploying it in more than one server. So you deploy it across multiple zones, more than two zones, so that you, in case of any disaster, at least one application, one region, one VM is still running, so that you don't you know you're not your application is completely down in just because one zone is down. So the other advantage is like if you're using any PaaS services, be it as a Cloud SQL, or Cloud Run or Cloud Storage, they're already taking care of this multi-zone zone uh, setup. So in case of any zonal outage, it doesn't impact these PaaS services. Okay. So
Okay, got it.
yeah. So the one important thing you always need to remember in terms of HA, you have to have it at least in multiple zones. In terms of the DR, you have to have at least more than one region. So when it comes to DR, you will have it in multiple regions. When it comes to HA, you'll have it in multiple zones. Remember this. Okay. Next, we talked about this introduction, and these are very basic information. So project selector, there is a thing called as a navigation bar, which is also called as a hamburger icon. If somebody says hamburger icon, that means the three lines. I'll talk about this when I show you the console. But that's the hamburger menu, whatever you see it in the left hand side with the four lines, right? That's called a hamburger menu. That's where you'll see all the GCP services. And then the project selector or project picker, that's when you will select in the right on top you'll have it. So this is used for switching between the projects. And then Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell is nothing but you'll have it's a free shell where you can run some couple of commands. Uh, it's there will be a compute VM attached to it. It is a free. Don't need to worry about the cost or anything. And it also have certain tools already installed, and you don't need to worry about the networking or anything because it's already have a networking established between with all the resources that are already there in the GCP. Until unless explicitly somebody creates a policy to not to do it. Okay. And then search bar, notification bell, IAM admin, all that. We'll talk about it once I show you the console. Questions? Hello.
Like Cloud Shell, we have to launch it in the Cloud Console itself.
Hmm. You have to launch it from the cloud console itself. Okay. Well, I'll show you. Like when we go to the Azure GCP console, I'll show you what it looks like and everything. So these are the billing models on demand. Mostly whatever we are using is on demand. So you'll pay for what you'll use. So when you'll use it, when it is a short term or unpredictable workloads, that's when you will use on demand. Sustained discounts. Basically, you don't need to do anything for sustained discounts. You'll automatically there will be a discount applied on those resources that are being run for the billing month. Okay, you don't need to do any pre-commit or anything else. Committed usage discount. You'll commit usage discount is like for like I will be using this much compute for these many an year or 3 years. So based on that, you will get a discount. So let's say you are having a stable workloads or predictable workloads that you are already aiming to use. So that's when you will go for committed usage discount. Other one is a spot discount. So spot discount is spot VMs or spot compute is nothing but uh, what will happen like GCP runs a lot of compute, right? So a lot of compute is not being used by them. So let's say it'll be using only 70% of the 70% of the capacity in the Google Cloud data center. So the 30% is left out, right? So in that is they're not using it. Nobody is using it. So that they'll use that compute as a spot instances or preemptible instances, which which is the same concept across other cloud providers also. So you will get a 70% to 90% of the discount. You will use it. But the only disadvantage with the spot VMs is like it will be only work for 24 hours. So after 24 hours, it'll be automatically stopped. So you can't use it for forever if you're using a spot instance. So why I can use a spot instance if you're having a workload which is like it doesn't matter. It has to run some certain scripts or certain workloads, certain processing, and then it'll save the results somewhere else. Like maybe it is a database or maybe it is some shared drive or GCS bucket. So that's when you can use the spot VMs. Questions?
Mm.
Okay.
Actually, didn't get about Spark VMs.
So spot VMs are nothing but a VM you can deploy. Okay, and you will get it for like cheaper price, like around 80 to 90% of discount, sometime less. Uh, but that will be used. You can use that
Mhm.
for a fault tolerant workloads. What does a fault tolerant workloads is like you are deploying your application, like let's say you have an active directory server, right? So you can't use active spot VMs for an active directory server because the minute the spot instance got stop, your entire active directory is and down, or you can't use it for a DB server because the minute it stopped, you don't have a DB server. But what I'm saying is like let's say you have some batch processings, some scripts that you need to run. Okay, so the scripts are running, and then they once the script is executed and it will be running, it'll save the results somewhere else. It will not save the VMs on the save the results on the same VM because it's a spot VM, right? So it means the minute it stopped, you will not have an access to that. You will have an access to the disk, but you will not be able to start the VM and log into the VM or anything. So that's
Okay.
when that's spot VMs no not advisable for a lot of workloads. If your workload is a fault tolerant or anything like that, so that's when you can use spot instances. So GKE, let's say you have a GKE workloads or you have a front end web application workloads. That's when you can use a spot VMs. Okay,
Yeah. Oh, got
we'll
it.
talk about the spot VMs more when we go to compute engine.
Yeah, sure.
So we talked about this on demand.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
think I got the issue with my headset. Let me just connect back. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. So
Yeah.
we're talking about the on-demand. We spoke about this already. On-demand is nothing but you don't need to commit. Committed usage, you'll have a contract, and spot, it's like you can use it anytime, but it's only work for the batch or some some types of workloads only. Next, budgets and billing alerts. So billing is again a different thing in GCP. So billing, you can have one billing account, and one billing account you have a multiple projects can be attached to it. Okay, and you can create a budget. Let's say you are trying to, let's say this month you are trying to spend only $100. So you want to know whenever you are reaching certain threshold. Let's say you the minute you spend $50 already, you need to get an alert so that you can stop certain resources which you no longer needed, or you can just control the sizes, all that, right? So that's when you will be using it, create and using the budgets. Okay, so you can have it across you can have it like a per project or per billing account or anything like that, and you can set up a thresholds 50% or 90% or 100%. You'll get a notifications, and once you get a notification, you can take an activity. Like get a mail, or you want to get an message, or you want to get a pager duty alert. You can set up that. Okay, connecting PubSub. PubSub is another service which works for message queue processing. You can set up that, but that is different thing. We'll talk about it when we go to PubSub topic. But you can also set the one thing is like if you the minute you set up the budget, it will not stop the spending. Okay, you have to set up a quotas and hard limits which you can configure it on the billing account itself. So the minute it reaches that quota, okay, or hard limit, it will not the all the resources that are there in Google Cloud subscription or the billing account, they'll stop. Google Cloud project or the billing account, they'll stop it. Okay, and it'll be suspended. That's the hard limit. Question.
No.
Um,
Okay, good. So this is about the free tier. What is the free tier? What will you get it? So you'll have it for new customers who want to have try some things. Okay, so you can go for free compute. You can go for E2 series or any other series that you can use. That is free. When you say free, it'll be used. It'll the whatever the credits, 300 credits that you'll get it, right. It'll be part. It'll be used from that. Okay, and then storage, you'll get a 5 GB of 5 GB per month regional storage for free. And BigQuery, you'll get a 1 TB of query processing plus 100 GB of storage free per month. Free in the sense it will be still part of the credits. Okay, cloud functions. So if cloud functions is a different service altogether, it is now cloud run functions, which is like you can invoke the same function for 2 million times in a month. Okay, that is free. Apart from that, how do you control the cost? So there is a thing called as a label in GCP. So there are two things. One is called as a label. One is called as tag. Okay. If you have used Azure or AWS, they're actually what if you're trying to compare the tags in the Azure, AWS or Azure. So the tags over there is equals to the labels here, because the labels doesn't have any functionality. It is just a label. It's just like attaching a sticker to any resource, like telling them like which environment, which team owns this application or the service, and who is the owner and all that. And this doesn't have any functionality. The labels doesn't carry any functionality. Okay, the only functionality it is like based on these labels you can choose, you can try to understand how much is the billing cost. Let's say I have a environment based tag based on label. Okay, environment based label. Based on this label, I know how much I can. In if I go to the billing, I can see how much is the billing cost in that specific environment. Okay, or let's say any team specific spending, how much this team is spending. Okay, so those things I can know. Apart from that, it doesn't have literally any functionality. And there is one more thing that's called as a recommender, which is a Google's own service. Mostly people use it when they are using the cost optimization. So you, based on the recommender, you'll know if you are using a VM, uh, like are you underutilizing or you're overutilizing, what is the right size, right disk, all that. It'll show you. Based on that, you can just apply certain things uh, so that you can save cost. Okay, you can export all your billing data into BigQuery. You can do further analysis on that. You can write queries and you can create dashboards and everything using billing data. But that's a difference. That is a little different. Okay, and the budgets, you can set up a budgets on all the projects. Okay, even free tire sandbox and everywhere you can set up the billing budgets. So using the billing budgets, you can get an alerts. Okay, that's the end of the class. So in this class, we'll talk. So the practical lab is creating a GCP free tier account, and we'll talk about the console. But what we have learned so far in this class, this session, is like how the capex model works, how it is the how on-premises versus cloud is. What is a cloud model? What is on-premises model? What are the different of types of cloud models? Okay, and we also talked about what about the Google Cloud basics. Okay, and we talked about the regions and zones, resource hierarchy, billing account, free tier account, and all that. Any questions so far?
No.
No, no, actually.
Okay,
I
great.
will go through the video. Um,
Okay, you can go through the video. I'll share the live recording also. You can go through it later. Let me go ahead and stop the live streaming now.
Yeah.
Or let me just, okay, let's do one thing. Let's take another 5 minutes of 10 minutes time. I'll showcase about the Google Cloud Console. Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing is like the minute you set up your free account, right? You also have to do some recharge kind of thing. You have to add some 1,000 rupees to it so that you can just have your billing account activated. So this is the hamburger menu that I talked about it. This is where you'll have all the services. You can go through each of them by one here. Okay. Or you can directly search from here as well. You can still do that. It's called project picker or project one. So you'll have a one project, and then you'll have a you let's say you have a whatever the projects that you are recently used, you can use it. You can star any projects. So let's say you start this project. So now it will come up in the start projects. Okay. The more frequently used ones, you can start it so that you don't need to search or anything like that. You just directly go to start and you can see all the projects. So if you have part of an organization or folder or everything, so you will actually see it from here. So when we actually go to the IAM class, which is tomorrow, i'll I'll actually show you the organization. I'll add this project to as organization, and I'll show you how the folders and projects works. Okay, so let's talk about the billing account. Okay, so this is my billing account. So this is how you will choose like where how much is the cost and everything. You will see it from here. So you want to see the detailed report, how much you have spent or anything. So you actually see it from uh, like your per your billing cycle. Let's say from first July to 1st of August. So this is where you will actually see it. Okay. So you can see based on like how much, based on the month, based on the labels. See, I told you, right? Labels, I told labels, let's say dev or QA or owner, whatever the details. Based on that, you can also see the cost. Okay. So you can also see how much each service has costed you, or how much each project has costed you, or which size has costed you more this month. So all this you can see it, and now you want to, now this has been also integrated with Gemini. So you can just ask Gemini, write some prompt, and it will also give you the results. So results reports this month, these are the predefined ones. So this month, projects based on this month, service based on this month, and all that. And you can so go for the invoices based on the projects and SKUs. These are all predefined results. Since my billing account has been created yesterday, you will not see any data. Okay. So this is the credits. If you have any credits, which I have, so it will show you how much credit has been spent and what is my tire. All that I can see it from here. Okay. Free trial being expired. Okay, this is my another one. Okay, let me just go to this other project. Okay, tomorrow anyway we're going to the lab, right? I'll show you the actual subscription which I have it.
Okay.
So who you can do the IAM management and everything from here. Okay, and you can choose your payment methods and everything directly here. If you're using a credit card or anything, if your cost, you can actually see here, any invoices, how much you costed and everything, you'll see it from here. This is the invoice amount I've got it for a May 2023 because this is the older project. Okay, how much I have spent in February, it will also show me here. In February, how much I spent before the billing account actually gets suspended. I can see all the invoices. So in March, how much I have spent. So in real time in your projects, you'll actually see more information. But this is a test account that I have, a test billing account. It will not show much details here. Any questions so far?
No, no,
Okay,
nothing.
No.
cool. So let me stop the streaming first. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm stopping the streaming for now, and we'll stop. If you have any questions, we can continue.